I just wanted to start it off by telling everybody, right? Like if you know me or we've worked together in any capacity, or if you've seen just the stuff or that I post, right? I'm not a marketing guy. I don't come from a marketing background. Um, I specifically focus on AI, and I got into marketing a little over a year ago. So this is probably going to be a little bit different than what you've seen in the past, right? I am going to really try to focus on training interactiveness. We're not doing too great today on the interactiveness, but that is really going to be our focus here. So a couple of things I want to start off with is just kind of driving you around um, the consortium and the platform. So this platform is pretty exciting. Um, there's a lot we can do with it and a lot we will do with it. But the goal here is really just to, expand out this consortium to give you a way to connect other people and really grow this into something more organic, right? At the initial launch, we'll see how that goes. But, at the end of the day, the intent is really just to turn this into something that's useful, that's interactive, etc. So I want to first, I guess I just noticed that my camera's not on. So let me get my camera on so you can see me. Talk a little bit about the consortium and really what this platform is like, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So you've all hopefully seen this. You've logged in. A couple of things that are here is, you're going to have the feed, which is going to be just different people's posts. You're going to have discovery, which is going to highlight different things that have gone on in the group, the events themselves. And so within the events, you can see every session. And as those sessions are listed out, if you did not get the meeting invite directly in your calendar, please send that to me or send a message to Lynn Liu, who's also on my team, and we'll add you so that can be on your calendar. I know that like when you come into these platforms, it's not always necessarily easy to add that to the calendar. Every platform's different, but they are in the consortium. But we do have a running calendar invite that we can share that with you and just add your email. Some people came in directly, so we don't have necessarily their email, but we try to get everybody on the invite. But if you didn't, just message us. It doesn't matter if you use the WhatsApp, if you use the messenger in here, just send us a message specifically to Lynn. We'll add you to the calendar invite. But as you can see, they're every Tuesday and Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific. We have people in the group from literally all over the world. So I know that's going to be challenging for some people, but we're going to record all these sessions, right? So we'll post them in the group, etc. A couple other things. We have the discussion. So you can see in the discussion right here, made a post yesterday. This is a great idea from one of our members is like, let's have a place where people can connect on LinkedIn. And so if you click right here into it, it'll take you to this share your LinkedIn group. And that goes to a Google Drive, and we've already got people that are updating their LinkedIn. So just another way to connect with each other. You've got mine, I've got mine on there, Lynn's on there, etc. So also in the group, we've got a couple things we're starting to build out. So first, the WhatsApp group, it's getting pretty active. There's a lot of other experts besides myself with Clay or Instantly that are in there, Smart Lead. And so if you click here, it'll take you to the WhatsApp group. You can join that chat. Or, if for whatever reason you're having an issue getting into the chat, just send me or Lynn a message and we can add you to the WhatsApp group as well. Talk a little bit about the library Clay. This is kind of new. We're starting to build this out, but this is where, we already have all the Clay workflows built into a Google Doc. And if you go into this work session here, click on the Google Doc, you can see all the workflows. We're trying to get a little bit more deliberate in how we build that and clean that out. Or deliver that. So we're going to start building out, individual detailed, releases here or more specific information with the Clay workflow. So one of the things you'll see about me, I'm very deliberate about sharing and trying to provide value up front, right? So we're going to share all these Clay workflows. I think we have probably well over 25 or 30 of them. So to be fair, right, some of them I've gotten some messages here like they weren't shared correctly or I can't get into them. So we're working through that. But the vast majority of them do work, right? And if you have a Clay account, even a free Clay account, you'll be able to see them, right? So we'll get better at this, but again, this is a week old, so we're doing our best. But hopefully you'll see just a lot of value from the get-go with these workflows. And then if there's an issue with one of the links or whatever, just let us know, and we'll do our best to fix it as quick as possible. But I know most of them work because I can see the clicks on them, and so I kind of have a good idea that most of them work. But again, we're trying to be agile, and so it's not perfect. So I promise I will never be perfect, but I promise we'll do our best to give you the most value out of this. So and I think that's really it. A couple other little things, right? Is we've got the connection directly to Clay. If you're not using Clay and you want to learn about Clay, you can click here. Same with Instantly, same with Smart Lead. If you want to meet with me more one-on-one, there's a link to do that there. And that's really it. So this will continue to expand and grow. As I said, we're at 250 members, and it's growing, kind of exponentially and organically on its own. A couple other things about the group. I would ask, for everybody, and I will follow this rule, and definitely on my team, is like, I did not want to create a place where a whole bunch of people come and pitch each other, right? I think we've all been in Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or other mediums where like that's really what it becomes. And I don't want this to be that, right? So I promise this to you, I will not be reaching out to you, trying to solicit you, trying to sell you to some large, master class that I've yet to reveal that'll come out at the end of, my first session today. Like that is not what this is. And so I know that's an effective technique. It's how I started to some extent getting into this business, is because I saw a video and got intrigued and I followed the stepping stone. But that's not what this is, right? This is a place, at the end of the day, where we are going to try to keep up to the best of our ability with the pace of what's happening as a whole with AI. Like I like to tell people at the end of the day that, Google and the internet, when that evolved 15, 20 years ago, it's very similar to that when it comes to AI, which is all of these tools are out there. I think my favorite saying the last 2 weeks is, every time OpenAI or Google or one of these companies release a new model, there's 1,000 startups born and 1,000 startups that die. And that's the type of revolution, we're in with AI. So this is just going to be a place where, to the best of our ability, we're going to try to keep up with that. We're going to share things related to Clay, Instantly, Bland, other tools that are directly interactive with each other and are related to AI. We're going to try to bring in experts, people that know how to build knowledge bases, people that know more about large language models than me, people that know more about Clay than me, Instantly than me, and really bring the best expertise we can to the group with really no expectation other than to teach people how to the best of our ability, use these tools in their daily lead gen or outbound LinkedIn or outbound email or chat bots or AI agents, right? So we're going to touch on all that. And some things are going to be valuable to you, some things are not. That's just, kind of inevitable of what we do, but we're going to try to bring practical application. So couple other things I was thinking of and I wanted to share is, right, the goal is, just to bring you the best, the latest and the best. We're not going to, like, I am an Instantly expert. I am a Clay expert, but I am not going to be endorsing products or focused on one thing versus the other. Sure, it's heavily Clay based because I use Clay to drive all my other interactions. But the goal here is not to say, use this tool, don't use this tool. Like if you've been around long enough, you kind of know that certain tools accomplish certain things and then they release new things, and then you might decide for whatever reason, cost, efficiency, effectiveness, capability, that this tool is better, right? And there are tools that definitely have their place, right? Like I think Clay is a complete game changing tool. I use Instantly for email, but I have plenty of clients, I have coworkers, people that I trust that use Smartly, right? So I'm not here to tell you which tool to use. I'm here to teach you and bring in experts on these tools that can teach you how these tools in combination or individually can drive ROI for your business. So just kind of wanted to get that out of the way. And then, I guess the question that somebody might ask, and I've been asked, is what's in this for me? Like, what's in this for content marketing media? What's in this for us? And really, at the end of the day, it's about evangelizing what I believe to be, an AI revolution. AI that, a year and a half ago, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, nobody even knew what Chat GPT was. And today we're seeing models that, the latest story I think I saw yesterday was Scarlett Johansson, denies that she allowed OpenAI to use her voice, and they're taking that down and la la la. So that sounds, that sounds trivial, but at the end of the day, here's a Hollywood actress that's coming out in the public and saying, "Hey, I didn't allow OpenAI to use my voice," and then OpenAI pulls that voice out of their platform. And if you saw the news last week, they did a great demo highlighting that voice's capability to tutor students live through a video and really change the conversational tone of AI voice, right? So OpenAI, Google, all of these companies are becoming relevant to the mainstream. So all right, I think that's enough of the soliloquy. The last point I want to show and share before we get into the workflow for today is that AI is a revolution. And I'm going to pull something up here that I just pulled up before the call, before the session, which is, this is an article on Bloomberg. And this is, it's a little dated. It's about 2 months old. But OpenAI courts Hollywood in meetings with film studios and directors. So why is that relevant? Well, if you've had a chance to check out Sora, which hasn't been released to the public yet, Sora is OpenAI's video tool. And when they kind of did some demos and showed its capabilities, if you remember back to the Hollywood strike that went on for a while, a lot of the premise of that was AI, and the fact that Hollywood producers and all the different tech and roles that are involved in creating movies and TV shows were threatened or concerned about AI. And so tying this back to my point is that Sora is so good that Hollywood producers are concerned. They're concerned within the next year or two that somebody with a laptop and the ability to write a pretty good prompt is going to be able to create a Hollywood level video. And the high likelihood at the pace at which AI is moving is that that's probably true. And so OpenAI went out and met with Hollywood film directors in studio, kind of reassuring them that this is what's going to happen with AI because Sora is so good. So why is that relevant to you? Because there's a real possibility in 3 months and 6 months that you're going to be able to prompt a video that today you have to use tools like HeyGen for or Tavis for. These voices that are coming out, these conversational AIs, today we use Bland and Vappy, but there's a real possibility that in months, if not a little bit longer, that true conversational AI is going to change because billion-dollar companies are investing in it. So that's my point, is when Bloomberg's writing about AI and OpenAI meeting with Hollywood, that this is a real evolution that's going on. All right. So now what are we here to learn today? I think that's probably the most important thing. There's a lot of things you can do with Clay. So let me kind of start off by those of you that aren't familiar with Clay, introducing you to Clay. So Clay is a cloud-based table structure where you can connect to a whole bunch of enrichments and a whole bunch of data connections. A lot of those are built into Clay. So things like, from a lead generation perspective, pulling data and emails from Apollo, connecting to store leads, connecting to a lot of different enrichments that are built into Clay. So I just pull it up, for example, on the screen, and you can see things like, Facebook, Instagram, different types of data, different types of tools, Tavis, generate video, ClayGent, which is a web scraper, OpenAI, different integrations, right? So these are all different. Some of them are Clays, but a lot of them are different companies like Google, HubSpot, on and on and on, right? So what Clay has done is they built a tool and they built in these enrichments, right? And the nice thing is if you have existing accounts, like if you have an OpenAI account, then you can connect directly. Um, they also give you the ability to uh, use Clay credits and not have to connect directly with an API key. So a lot of different things that are used across different businesses here: Stripe, Snowflake, on and on and on, right? um, I'm not here to tell you, like, I can tell you this: if you use Clay credits to accomplish all of this stuff, it is exponentially more expensive than if you use your API keys, and Clay knows that, right? So like with anything else in life, you pay for the ability to have convenience, right? So if you want to use Clay credits, and I'll just show you my account here. So you go to, once you sign up, you go to billing, and they have plans, right? So, 149 a month gets you the ability to use your own API key. I would tell you from just my professional perspective, you want to be at a minimum of 149. They're not paying me to say this. There's no incentive, no incentivizing here. But at 149, you can use your own API keys on everything, and it's exponentially more cost effective to use your own APIs. So I would tell you at a minimum, that's where you would want to be. But they have a free plan. You can sign up on their website. I have a link to it in, here where you can click on Clay, takes you right to their sign up page, and you can test it out for free, right? So no sales pitch here, just trying to show you that especially if you're already using Clay, like there is definitely some advantages to at least be on the 149, mainly because all of those enrichments I just showed you, you can go out and get API keys and connect to those enrichments directly just by dragging and dropping your API key. And we're going to show you that. We're going to show you that today and show you that specifically with Apify, with OpenRouter as well. There are other plans, like I am on the 1,000 a month. It gets me some additional abilities like being able to integrate with CRMs. You can do a lot of things as well in Clay for free. So you can import up to 50,000, LinkedIn profiles of people and or companies. So there's a lot to learn about Clay, but it can be a pretty significant impact on your organization in a positive way if you learn how to use it. But this is not going to be that, to be fair, right? There's so much about Clay that we could teach you. This is really meant to, we want you to go out and learn Clay on your own and at least utilize their resources to do that. And then we're going to show you how to practically use Clay to get results from a bunch of different perspectives. So that's kind of the setup. And so today is an example of that, right? Today is an example of how we are going to use Clay very specifically to connect to any large language model that exists on the planet, and then to use Clay very specifically to connect through another source called Apify, which just opens the door for the amount of information that you can pull in. So I'm going to pause for a second there and just take a look at the notes. But yeah, a couple quick answers. Yes, there'll definitely be a recording. It'll be posted in the group. And yeah, that's it. So if there's something urgent, please put it in the question and answer, because at least at this point, for those of you that joined late, I didn't do a good job of making sure the chat worked or the ability. I think I can manually unmute people, but unmuting the group. So I will get that fixed before Thursday. But if you have something very specific, just put it in the Q&A because I can see the Q&A. All right, so let's get on to the live demo here. So I'm going to do this slowly because I don't know everybody's familiarity with different tools like OpenRouter, even with Clay, or even with Apify. But we're going to start off with, if you knew none of this, how would you do any of this, right? And we're going to get you in the next 15 or 20 minutes to the point where you can take data, run it through any model that exists on the planet, and spit out a result. And that's what I'm going to show you here today. And you'll have the recording. I'm going to share the workflow so you don't have to rebuild the workflow and worry about the API calls. But I do want you to know how to do it because it's not as hard as it sounds, right? And it's something that you can utilize for, I can't stress enough the power to be able to call all of these models directly instead of trying to figure out, does that enrichment exist in Clay or is there a tool out there? There are thousands of SaaS tools right now that are all running on GPT 3.5 or GPT-4 or GPT-4 Turbo. What I'm going to show you today gives you the ability to, you could have last Monday when OpenAI announced GPT 4.0, use that model within 2 hours of when they released it. The next day, Google Gemini released 1.5 Turbo, and you could have used that within hours because OpenRouter accumulates every single model as they're released. And then Apify, why that's important, and while we'll talk about Apify, because not just because they have an OpenRouter connection, but also they have connections to a whole bunch of things that are not in Clay. And so if you find something very specific that you need, like let's just say, Zillow data, that's in Apify. So you can connect Apify to Clay and now get something that exists outside of Clay, right? So that's part of the reason why I want to show these three things together. And then of course we'll give you the workflow and we'll show this step by step. So let's start with Clay. If I did not have a Clay account, now I'm a cold emailer by trade, right? So I have plenty of email accounts. So we're just going to go through and I'm going to pretend like I'm brand new. I'm going to sign up using Google. I'm going to pick one of my other accounts that I don't think I have. I definitely don't want to pick my daughter's school account, but we'll see here. We'll use this one. I don't think I've ever signed up for it. And then it's going to ask me a bunch of questions, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll just say HTTPS, chat visibility, what describes you. We'll just say other. What's your main goal with Clay? Finding new leads, Google, and then no, I don't use any outbound tools. And we're going to get started with Clay, right? So just like that, that's how long it took me to get a Clay account. And the nice thing is with Clay is they gave me free credits to start. So I have 989 credits to start and I have some basic tables, right? So I want you to see that that's the starting process for Clay, right? It's just, you can test what I'm going to teach you without using any Clay credits, but I wanted you to give an idea of like how easy it is to sign up for Clay. All right, that's it for that. So now that I've gone through that process, the next thing I want you to focus on is OpenRouter, right? So we're going to do the same thing. Let me log out of this and just show you kind of how easy it is to, I'm sorry, I said OpenRouter, I meant Apify. So we're going to go to apify.com. We're going to sign up for free. And we're going to sign in with Google. And we'll just use that same email address because I don't think I've used it before. And continue. And hopefully this should work. All right. That's a weird username. And I'll just say, I don't know how I'm going to use Apify. I'm going to use it manually. And just like that. So let's talk a little bit about Apify and why Apify is kind of, really just a game-changing tech, at least from my perspective, because they're built much like Clay. Their goal is to get a bunch of different integrations, but these are built by individual, people that are then submitting these actors, is what they're called, into Apify. So this opens the door to a whole bunch of information that you can then bring into Clay, or you could even use it individually. So Apify has its own setup, schedules, storage. It gets very detailed, using proxy calls, etc. But if you come to the Apify store, as you can see, I was given $5 of free usage here, 8 gigabytes of memory, and I haven't paid a penny. You haven't seen me create any kind of credit card, etc. I can come to the store and look for different things like LinkedIn, and you can see if I type in LinkedIn, all the different actors that have been built. I think I mentioned Zillow. So Zillow searches, I mean, it just goes on and on. They have it categorized: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So I think you can see, and you can look at different ones and how much they've been used. Did Apify build them, or are they built by an individual developer? But the concept of it is pretty straightforward, right? If you're going to do this without Clay and just Apify, it's a little bit more technical. So if you get into a given, tool, then the setup's a little bit different, and piping the data in here you want to search is different. But it works, right? I would tell you, like, it's much simpler if you use it. At least start off with the table that I'm going to show you, which is OpenRouter, because they built the table already, so they've made it a little bit easier. But I'm going to give you this table, but if you were going to do it from scratch, you could go to actors and let's see, store. Let's just type in OpenRouter. And here it is. So the way that Apify works from a pricing perspective, just so you know, is that you subscribe to actors. And so this is the OpenRouter actor. And then you could start, and I'm going to hit start. And the nice thing is I do this all the time with my primary account, is I trial these actors. Almost all of them have like a 2 or 3 day trial. So I don't pay anything, and I test it and see how good the data is and what the output is and how useful it is. And then from there, I decide whether I want to pay for it or not, right? But you can see I've trialed this actor. I can look at the updates. It's been updated 112 times, etc. Go to the information tab when you subscribe to these, because this is where it really tells you what it does. This is pretty technical, but I would tell you, like, the simple thing is, I noticed when I was looking at this one, 4 Clay users, and here's a Clay template. So if I click on it, and I can now copy this table, and I have this table, right? So just like that, I didn't have to build the table. Really nice of it. A lot of the API work's done, etc. So that's how you would get to, from beginning to end, to get to this Clay table connected to Apify, connected to OpenRouter, because they did the work for us. I could obviously build that myself, and I'm going to show you a much better way to use this. But at the end of the day, even if you're on your own trying to figure this out, you could do this directly through Apify. All right, so next step. Let's go to what is OpenRouter and why is OpenRouter so powerful? So let me log out here, and let's just start from the beginning. All right, so if I go into Google, type in OpenRouter, I'm usually going to see this page right here. So OpenRouter is a unified interface for large language models. So I want you to kind of understand that essentially, as large language models are released, then OpenRouter connects to that large language model, and they give other software tools or people like us the ability to choose the models they want to use and pay the price of what that model costs directly from that provider. So some of the biggest models on the planet today are Google, and they have Gemini, they have advanced 1, 2, bunch of different models. You have OpenAI, they have GPT 3.5, 4 Turbo, 4 Vision, now 4 Omni. You have Anthropic, which has their Claude models. You have Cohere, which has their different models, like Command R Plus. Perplexity, which is more of a model integrated with search. So there's a lot of Mistral. There's a lot of big models on the planet. A lot of multi-million, if not billion-dollar companies that are building out models, and they're all competing, and they're releasing them as fast as they can, and they're releasing new capabilities within these models. So last week, OpenAI released GPT-4 Omni, and the Omni means it's multimodal. It can handle voice. It can handle video. It was an increased model for text generation. And so OpenAI released that model via their API, and it's now available in OpenRouter, right? So here it is. And so if I click into it, I can see The O is for Omni. It's their latest model. Talks about supporting text and images, etc. Is twice as fast. So that's an important thing to note. It's 50% more cost effective, and it has improved performance and visual capabilities, right? So of course we want to test that as we build it into our workflows. But here's the thing: if you're in Clay right now and you're using one of the enrichments calling OpenAI and you're using GPT-4 Turbo, you just got a model that's faster, that handles more calls, that's 50% of the price, and supposed to be better, right? So why would you not test it? Now, the nice thing is Clay has already updated their enrichment to include GPT-4, but that's not always going to be the case, because if you're using, a Claude Opus model, which is an Anthropic model, and they release one, then there's development time within Clay to update that. So the nice thing is, and there's plenty of models in OpenRouter that don't exist in Clay. And so you may have different use cases. Maybe you want to do research. Maybe you want to create copy. Maybe you want to do LinkedIn, profile outreach. It doesn't really matter what it is. OpenRouter gives you the ability to find the model that works for what you're trying to accomplish, all while understanding what the price is. I think more importantly, logistically speaking, if you use a lot of APIs like I do, the one absolutely thing I love about OpenRouter is it's one API key, right? So once you have the connection, you're using one API key. So let me prove it to you. So if you sign in, continue with Google, and then we'll just use this chat visibility one that I was using before. Brand new account, we'll continue. OpenRouter works on a credit system, right? And so to get your API calls, you have to have some credits. So let's see, I can't remember if they didn't give us anything. So, and I don't want to put my credit card information in front of me, but in front of everybody. But if you go to manage credits, and then you can buy credits at whatever, a couple dollars each, right? So if I hit buy credits, and then hopefully this won't show my account, and I can do $5, right? So I can start off at $5 of credits. And so in a minute, I'll log into my live account. But basically, I buy $5 in credits, and now every API call I use, it'll stop at that $5. If I want to do 50, if I want to do 100, but it's one API key. If you were to try to use all of these models individually, number one, you'd have to make API calls to every one of these, and then secondarily, so you'd have all those different API keys. And then secondarily, you would have to figure out all of the costs for each one of those. And if you're doing any kind of volume like we are, then that's a lot to manage, because each model costs different. Each model has a different price point. And so let me get into my primary account so I can show you what it looks like in reality. I'm just watching the time here. So here it is in reality. You can see credits, and I got $3 left. I just do 5 at a time, as much as I use OpenRouter. When you're doing hundreds of thousandths of a penny on each run, it doesn't add up as quick as you think. And then you can look at the settings. So the reporting is what's pretty awesome. And you can just see in my settings here, I'm using multiple different models. So Llama, GPT-4 Omni, Command R, Mistral, et cetera, et cetera. But I can see from a transparency perspective, what's the cost. I'm even testing this model called Llama from Meta that's free, right? And I'm seeing how good it is. And we're going to use that in our workflow today. So this is OpenRouter. Quick other little bit of logistics here. You go to the browse screen. These are the models from newest to oldest. You can sort it however you want. But here's some of the models I mentioned: Google Gemini, Perplexity, on and on and on. You can look at rankings. So what are people around the world using? And as you can see, there are a lot of the ones you would expect that I've talked about. Meta, Anthropic, Mistral, Meta again, OpenAI, Wizard, which is a Microsoft model, et cetera. So the one thing I want you to take away from this is why this is so important, because some of the biggest billion-dollar tech companies in the world, whether it be Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, et cetera, they're all competing against each other. And that's the revolution I was talking about. They all are investing millions of dollars into releasing these models, and you're getting access to them as they're released if you're using OpenRouter, versus relying on any other third-party source to pull that model in for you. All right, the table at hand, right? So let's get to the table. That's the one I downloaded. All right, so here's the table, and this is the table I'm going to share for you. And this is the table that I want to use to make somewhat of a practical application. Jason, I saw your question. GPT-4 is not free. So none of the GPT models are free. They are free if you're using ChatGPT. To use them at any kind of level, you would have to use the API, and the API is not free. But what they've done is made GPT-4 Omni free within ChatGPT. That interface, they've made it free, but not within to use it for tools like this or any kind of tool where you have to call the API. So this is the table I'm going to share, and I've built in some functionality to this, and I'm going to show you all the things you need to do to make it work, which is not much. But let's start off, and I made it really simple, but we have a website. So this is my website. I'm not going to stay out long to promote it, but that's it. So here's our website. Here's the prompt. I kind of made it a little, if you've seen any of my stuff before, I made this one a little bit different just to show you different use cases. But the prompt is, your task is to determine the ideal customer persona, the ICP, for a company based on their website. And then I describe to it what an ICP is, and then I give it the website. So I've injected this website from this table, this first row here, and I've given it very specific instructions. Describe the company's ICP in less than 100 words. So again, this could be anything. It could be, go to this website and tell me who their founder is, or whatever you would normally prompt into any kind of tool, ChatGPT, etc. So that's the prompt. Now, what I've done that you won't see if you download the table from OpenRouter is I have built in dynamic model choices. So let me explain how this works. So this is a drop-down table in Clay. So if you edit the column, you can add whatever values you want. I chose what I put in here, right? So I put in here what I thought would be just kind of some diverse models that you could play with, ones that I know are really awesome. Claude Haiku is really, really cheap. It's GPT 3.5 level cheap, but it's also really, really good. Command R and Command R Plus are exceptional for web research. Meta Llama Instruct is absolutely free. So I put that in there, and you're going to see in a minute what it outputs. Gemini 1.5 Flash and GPT-4 Omni were just released last week. So, but again, how did I get these in here? So I went to OpenRouter, and I looked at browse, and I just literally cut and paste these models. They all have their names right there, and I pasted them into this list. That's it. So that's that simple, right? So I just added Never Sleep, Llama, whatever that is. So now I have that many more models to choose from. So if you want to add or delete models, that's it. It's just, you can take them out, you can add them. This list can be every model in OpenRouter, which is probably 500, or it can be the 4 that you care about most, that you think work the best. So the next thing is I wrote this prompt through Apify to call this model that we chose here. So this is all going to be done for you. So you don't really need to worry about necessarily doing any of this, other than you need to drop in your API key. And so how would you do that from Apify? You'd come here, you'd hit add an account, and there's where you paste your API key. And if you were in Apify, which is right here, you would go to your settings. As soon as I can find my settings here. Let's see. Oh, settings. And then integration, and there's your API key. So to connect Apify to this OpenRouter setup, all you need is this API key. And so you copy it, come back to the table here. I'm going to close this out so I stop going there, and paste this API. And it's going to connect. So now you are connected to Apify. The rest of this is done. So you don't have to worry about being an expert at API calls. Like what this does is, if you see where it says model choice, it plugs in the API call with whatever you choose here. The prompt, it plugs in the prompt based off what the prompt says here. So it makes it dynamic, and it makes it run, and it makes it work. And it will make it work at scale too. So let's take the next step. So I'm kind of, that's all as far as setting it up. But let's just make it a little bit more dynamic. So you can see our website, the prompt, we talked about that. And then I'm just going to run it live while we're on the call so you can see it. And you can see I did rerun it for the call, but it does a pretty good job of identifying my company's ICP. So, and this is the free model. So let me refresh this and dive into the results here a little bit. But this is the output, and this is from Meta Llama Instruct Free. So I have over here, and this is a little bit technical, so I don't want to get into too much detail, but it just essentially, you can calculate cost. This one's a little misleading because it does output the completion and the prompt tokens, and there really is no cost for this Meta Llama run. But I had to have a formula in there, and that formula just calculated the amount of cost per input and output. So I want to rerun this with a different model so you can see the true cost here. And oh well, Clay went down. So let me see if I can get back in here. Oh, that's not good. I don't know what I'm doing there. Well, bad timing, but for some reason my whole Clay account is down. So let me see if I can get back in a different way instead of through the URL. So while that's loading, I'm going to look at some of the questions. Yeah, so Adam, Apify OpenRouter versus direct OpenRouter API call. I would definitely say direct OpenRouter API call is the answer to your question. The reason why I'm teaching people today to use Apify is because to make a direct open AI router call, you have to be on a plan that is $350 or less, $350 or more. So I don't know. I think I can show that in here. So to call APIs directly, you have to be on this 350 plan. To use your own API key, you only have to be the $150 plan. So at least in this demo, that is why I'm teaching people to access OpenAI or at least OpenRouter directly through the API call through Apify. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Dominic, can you use the function to get it to populate the merge tags like normal in Clay? Yeah, so let me see if I can get back into my own account. Apologize for leaning forward there, but my screen is below here. So let me try. Get into my own account here. So yeah, so Dominic, in that table, let me find the one I had open here. Apify OpenRouter. So this is another table that I built, same thing. The key is you can dynamically update the prompt, and you do that in the settings. So if you go into edit and you update the prompt, then you can dynamically prompt from another field. So I think that's what you're asking, Dominic, but you can obviously do it individually within each row, but you can see how it fills content marketing media out there. And then when I go to the next one, it fills out OpenAI and it's prompting from those. And the reason why it dynamically does that is because I've done it in the settings, which is here, edit column, and then I've set it to pull from the prompt there. So, and I'm just kind of going through questions here, but I use an ICP prompt like this a lot for price and for result. What do you think will give the best result? So you know, the more you get into Clay, you're going to learn there's multiple different ways to do things. I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest opportunities with Clay is that, and I don't mean this in a way, in a positive way, is you can do different ways, right? So one of the ways you could actually do the same thing if you wanted to was to use ClayGent and then prompt it to go to the website and pull in the ICP. So I would always tell people, like, test what way works and gives you the best results at a significant scale, more than one, like do 100, and then see from a cost perspective, you know, what, if you're going to use that at scale, like what is your cost going to be? So like I would say if I could get Meta Llama 3B Instruct, which is free, to give me results consistently, then why would I use ClayGent? Because then I'd have to pay Clay credits or at least API calls. So that's kind of how I look at things and say, okay, what is the best way I can accomplish it? But if you want to get really technical, like some models don't have the capability to call the internet. So you're going to get bogus information trying to use certain GPT models to call the internet because they only provide information up to a certain point. So very much trial and error, and then using cost to help drive that solution. Can Cohere and OpenRouter search the internet too? Yes, it can. There is a little technical thing there, is that at least through OpenRouter, you cannot append, you cannot ground the website through OpenRouter because the API call doesn't allow it. So at least what I teach people today in the tables that we use in production, we call Cohere directly. And then if we're going to use OpenRouter, we use it for the copy. So, GPT-4 Omni, we use Claude Opus as well. I think those are the two for copywriting. But those are the strategies we use because we can't ground. Cohere is the best research model on the planet, in my opinion, but you cannot, to my knowledge, you cannot ground the search to the website. And that's kind of technical and hard to explain, but that's what keeps it from hallucinating. You can't do that through OpenRouter. So at least I call Cohere directly. The challenge with that is you have to be on the $350 a month plan to call an API directly. So again, all of this is complicated, but Cohere, if you want to use Cohere for research, ideally call it directly versus through OpenRouter. Yes, Clay hates it when I switch accounts like that too. Yeah. Am I sharing my Clay tables anywhere or just inside the Elite AI school group? So let me tell you about the school group. Again, not a promotion, but the school group is something different. It is for people that are using what we teach in reality and practicality and for their customers, for themselves. If you're interested in, just reach out to me. I'm not going to promote it in this group, but it is a paid group and it's for people that are actually using it. I do share the Clay workflow tables there as well, but we get into more detail, like, which API call should you use, et cetera. It's hard to do that in a group like this. But I did share, and I am sharing every Clay workflow I've ever built in the course or in the AI Consortium. So if you come here to AI Consortium and you click on this Google link drive, you can actually see, and we update these every time I make a post or every time I create a workflow. So you're getting access to every Clay table that we built through here. And you can't see these questions, guys, but I'm answering them on another screen. If you're already paying $349 for an HTTP API, how much cheaper is it to run an integration directly through OpenRouter rather than going through Apify? If I was paying for the $349 API, which I am, I would not go through Apify because it just adds another layer, right? So in those Clay workflows, I have shared workflows that connect directly to OpenRouter without going to Apify. I with the help of Jim Poe, who's another Clay creator, he kind of developed this method, and so I've kind of built on it, and it just gives people the ability that can only pay $149 a month versus $349 a month to do the same thing, which is connect to every LLM. But I would go directly to OpenRouter, and I have workflows in the workflow document that you see on the screen to do that. If you're on the $349 account, because then you're just removing the middleman, which is Apify. How would I use Clay to determine the gender of a lead? That's a great question. I do think there is a gender. It's funny. That's a great question because I never thought about it, but I thought I remember seeing something. So let me see if there's an enrichment for that. Here you go. So there's an integration called Predict Gender that's built into Clay, and that appears to be how you would do it. You can also use a quick GPT call. I don't know. So the thing about when you start using models and large language models, they're built for privacy. So trying to scrape emails, things like that, sometimes you're going to get bogus results back, or you're going to say, I cannot tell you that because that's private. So um, you can try it though. You can definitely try it with models and do that through OpenRouter as well. Can I cancel LinkedIn Sales Nav Apollo and get the same results for lead gen and Clay? You can, but I mean, I would definitely try to see what the benefit is from a LinkedIn Sales Nav perspective. You can definitely, I can tell you, you can definitely import leads into Clay, um, in the same way that you would in Sales Nav, right? So it definitely has those capabilities, especially company profile, personal profile. But you're never going to get the email for free. Like that's pretty much number one. You can build workflows, and I've done it, that help you try to identify it using AI, but then you're still paying API cost of the large language model. But you know, I don't care if you use Apollo. I use Instantly for most of my leads. You can use Apollo. You can scrape it from the web. You can pay some guy on Fiverr. It doesn't matter how you go about getting it, but I don't know of a way to get emails for free that verify and reliable, at least to any level of volume for a given niche, right? So I wouldn't say, you can get all your answers from Clay, but it's really about what approach you want to take. Do you want to scrape them? Do you want to pull them in from LinkedIn Sales Nav, go out and get those leads, et cetera? There's a lot of different ways you can do lead gen and a lot of different ways you can create copy. Do I need to enrich the information first before using the website to prompt it? No, Fernando, you don't. In this table, again, this is a different table that I was showing, but here's the website only. That's all we have. We're asking for the ICP. We did 3 different model choices here through OpenRouter and then an Apify, and we got 3 different results. And so if I had done the calculations on these are like 1/100th of a cent, 2/100th of a cent. So ridiculously cheap way to get highly detailed information from a company. And this is my company, and I can tell you this is an accurate description. It's not, I don't love it, but it's accurate. And that came from MetaLlama, which is free. So there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat. If I were to use Command R, a lot more detailed explanation and a lot more accurate. But I'm paying for this result, probably 1/10 of a cent, maybe 2/10 of a cent. So you get what you pay for, but then on the other end, you've got to adjust your approach to what your budget is and what your ROI is. Can any of the models scrape for intent or likelihood to purchase now? You can use signal-based intelligence, right? So, I mean, the best thing I can think is if someone's run Google ads, are they likely to run Facebook ads? If a company is posting for a role, that means that person left and went somewhere else, or that person went somewhere else. That means that company has a vacancy, right? So you can use that if then that concept to kind of use signal-based intelligence. I don't know that there's anything out there that says, can a model tell you someone's going to buy something? I think the intent, Jason, comes from people's actions that you can capture with data. Is there a model that allow you to do an API call and a customized GPT we created with a specific knowledge base? Yeah, the only way I knew to do that, Dominic, is through Relevance AI. So Relevance AI can connect you directly to the GPTs that you build. And through Relevance, you can call that API, which then by proxy gives you the ability to call your customized GPT. And so that's something I've found an expert in Relevance. We're going to bring him in some of the later sessions to talk about what you could do with Relevance AI, but that would be one way to address that. Is Cohere better than OpenAI? Yes and no. It's better for research because OpenAI is limited to their training data. I believe, I can't remember the date, but GPT-4 Omni is only trained up to a certain date, so it can't tell you what happened in the news yesterday. Whereas Cohere allows you to, it's a large language model built for enterprises, so it doesn't leak if you, it doesn't hallucinate if you write the API call correctly. Don't forget that LinkedIn starts to add pronouns, not all users, but many. Good point. Can you quickly demonstrate again how you configure the Apify and Clay table for OpenRouter? Yeah, unfortunately, Penn, I can't quickly demonstrate it, but what I'm going to do is share the table so that the only thing you have to do is log into Apify, grab that API call, and plug it into Clay, which you do here, and then add an account and cut and paste the API key. The rest of this work will be done for you. And so that's the nice thing. I'm going to share the table. And when I share the table, you just need to add it to your Clay environment. Yeah, a lot of us are trying to push Clay to integrate into OpenRouter. How much experimentation do you do by finding good prompts? Yeah, prompt engineering is the class of it in and of its own, right? I write really, really complex prompt, but the cheats I will tell you is that go to ChatGPT and tell it to write a prompt for you and tell it what to write the prompt for, and you're going to get a much better prompt than if you try to do it yourself if you don't know how to do prompt writing. And that's it. So I am going to figure out between now and Thursday how to enable the chat. I will share these workflows later today along with the recording. 37 of you have stayed, so hopefully you got some value in this, and I promise to get better on the integration side. And I promise also not to be the person talking all the time. I want to make this more interactive, so we'll get the chat, we'll get the mute thing fixed, but hopefully you got a little value of something that cost you nothing, and we'll continue to, other than your time, which is obviously important, and we'll continue to try to get better at this. So thank you so much, guys. I hope everybody has a great day.